Hello, everyone. My name is Ji-Yun Chon, Communications Director at National Farm to School Network. And as part of our Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month celebrations, I have the pleasure of inviting Heile Gantan-Keo to highlight her leadership in the Farm to Institution movement. Heile is currently a program manager at Impact Justice, specifically for their Food in Prison project. So, hi, Hyla, welcome. It's so great to chat with you today and to have this opportunity to highlight your leadership at Impact Justice. So just to start off, can you give us a brief overview of the Food in Prison program at Impact Justice? And if you want to share anything about what personally brought you to the work.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me and for highlighting AAPI leaders in this space specifically. So, the Food in Prison Project at Impact Justice, just to kind of go back a bit, Impact Justice is a national nonprofit organization where we focus on research and innovations related to the criminal legal system. And what we do is we support folks for pre-contact, so trying to disrupt interactions with the criminal legal system, improving conditions for folks who are currently in the system, and then also working to help improve outcomes for people who are returning from incarceration. And so, with the Food in Prison program, what we do is we have various areas of this. We have a nutrition education workshop where we talk to community members and also folks who are returning home from incarceration. So, really supporting improving outcomes, and then also in its own way, preventing contact with the system. As we know that so many folks who are impacted by incarceration also come from communities where food insecurity and lack of resources are very prevalent for that community. Other things that we do include our Harvest of the Month work, which I'm so happy to share about today, where we are improving food access for people who are currently incarcerated by providing or helping facilitate a variety of foods for them. I was personally brought to this work because this is really a passion topic of mine. So I come to this work with experience with incarceration. I've been doing this work for over 10 years from the inside out, and I am just so driven by that model of working with partners, working from the inside out, using things like policy and legislation as ways to be the catalyst for the change that people on the ground want to see, right? I think we hear so many times the phrase that people who are closest to the problem are oftentimes furthest from the solution. But for me, it has always been my mission as someone who has lived it, who has been there, who has eaten it, to look at opportunities for change and to amplify the voices from those who are inside and work with partners and stakeholders who can help move that needle so that we can see the kind of change that we are hoping for.
All right. Yeah, that's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And I'm also curious about if you can speak more about any local procurement or partnerships with local growers that's happening as a result of the program. It sounds like you have Harvest of the Month and other great things going on.
Yes, I am so proud of our Harvest of the Month program. Um, as you know, as many folks who are in the Farm to Institution Network know, Harvest of the Month is not a new concept, right? So this is not something that I invented or folks at Impact Justice invented. But this is a proven model of success in K through 12 settings to increase consumers' consumption of a variety of foods, to improve nutrition education for young eaters, also to help really strengthen the local economy through small, mid-sized local farmers and growers, and connect them to a larger institutional market like school districts. So the reason why we wanted to introduce this into the carceral settings is one, because it's never been done before, but then also two, because again, it's a proven model for success. Here in California, there was recently a bill that was passed in 2022, which, just to keep things simple, it requires 60% of state-run institutions to purchase a minimum of 60% of agricultural products. And this is a high bar, right? But given that we're in California, California is a large agricultural state, we were finding that there were many holes in terms of what state institutions were actually receiving and eating versus what is being produced here in our home state. And so to build that bridge, the bill was passed. Our project team, which we call ourselves the Farm to Corrections California team, went to the agency, which is the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, to show them that, hey, we have a solution for you. It is a bite-sized way to get into this door of local procurement. It is a proven model. Let's try it out. And so with that, we were able to look for, we were looking at their contracts, we were looking at source of origin information, and none of that existed in any of their records. So we thought to ourselves, what is a sure way that we can feel confident that all of the produce is going to be coming from a California grower or producer? And the solution that was thought of was really working hand in hand in partnership with a local food hub, because a local food hub, their entire network is based off of small, mid-sized local farms within a certain radius. And so we found one. Spork Food Hub has been an amazing partner. They were able to get some infrastructure in place, with the whole COVID food supply chain really being impacted during that time. And it really set us up so that they could fill the volume that's needed for such a large correctional department here in California. And so with that, we've been able to work again in partnership with Spork Food Hub. We've engaged nearly 30 small mid-sized farms to support all 30 CDCR facilities across the state, which really means that nearly 90,000 people who are currently in the care of CDCR are receiving access to fresh, local, healthier variety of fruits and vegetables. And that looks like strawberries, avocado, persimmon, bok choy, mandarin. We even served purple daikon earlier this year, and folks had no idea what it was. But when we're offering the variety, and it's beautiful variety, different colors and things on a tray in an environment that otherwise looks very sterile, it's attractive for the population. They're more willing to eat it. They're more willing to ask questions and learn about it. And so all of the goals under Harvest of the Month really are achieved, even just through looking at the new variety of food and then feeling that invitation really to come to the table or come to the chow hall to eat and consume the food.
Yeah, that's really great. Love to hear about that Food Hub partnership and the wonderful variety that you're able to bring to the table. Um, and so my next question is that I can imagine that there may still be some stigma or lack of familiarity around this movement to improve food in prison. So for folks wondering why we should invest in these programs, can you talk a little bit more about the benefits, not only for those incarcerated people that you're serving, but also for the wider community and the local economy?
Definitely. It's not uncommon to hear the response about stigma for the population who we support, right? There's a lot of times we hear, well, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime, or, people just chalk it up to, food inside of prisons is part of the punishment. And our approach is very different. Our outlook is very different. Um, being that I am, you know, in the nutrition and food world, every person I was taught is deserving of nutritious, healthy food, regardless of incarceration status. Like that's taught in the classrooms, it's taught in community health and public health settings. But when we start to narrow down the idea of who is being fed in the context of food in prison, somehow the conversation changes, right? And I also want to frame it in the fact that we know 90% of people who are currently incarcerated, at some point, they return back to our communities. And so to have this conversation as if this exists in a vacuum really isn't realistic, and it's actually a harmful way of thinking, if we're okay with allowing people on the inside to eat food that is not healthy, that is not supportive to their health, that oftentimes people who are incarcerated for 10, 20, 30 years, they return back to our communities with chronic illness and disease. And so thinking of it as a way to help prevent burdening our systems with, especially our medical and healthcare systems, and thinking of it as, okay, this is rehabilitation. We want to rehabilitate people so that they can come out and they can integrate well. They can, easily find a job, find their place back in the community, and we can all just work synergistically to create a better environment that they left before. Now, in terms of, what other benefits there might be for the wider community and local economy, just some numbers that I'm very happy to share. We had a very small schedule, like a small rollout with our Harvest of the Month schedule. So we started at 3 facilities, and then we added 3 additional facilities every quarter after that until we reached all 30 facilities. And then we continued on reaching all 30 facilities every single month. From 2023 to now, we've supported nearly those 30 farms and then also the food hub with over $3.2 million alone, right? And that's just in this one program where we started very, very small, served one time a month. Now we've increased it to nearly 15 times a month. Kind of changes a little bit depending on the population. But this really has greater impact for these small, mid-sized farmers. I just heard from 2 farmers last Thursday who mentioned that they are so happy with the fact that they can continue to provide their staff and their workers with medical insurance, that they don't just hire seasonally, that they can keep them on long term. They don't have to shut their doors, after every season, that they can start filling smaller orders so that they can improve the reach of their products to other folks who need it. And so it has really served as a lifeline just through this one small Harvest of the Month program here in California. And so when we think about it in that context, I think that it's not just the incarcerated people who are benefiting from this, but really it's a domino effect to the larger society and communities as a whole.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was so well said. All right. Well, to close us off, thank you so much again for sharing your expertise and your passion for this topic. To close off, in celebration of API Heritage Month, do you have a personal favorite food or dish that you want to share with us?
Yes, because I love food and I love
Yeah.
very culturally relevant cuisine.
hmm
So my background, I am Filipino. My husband, he's Khmer, or if folks aren't aware, that's like people from the land of Cambodia. And we are blessed to have a blended family. And so something that unites us as like our 2 separate ethnicities are sour soups, right? I think that's very common with Asian cuisine. But specifically with Southeast Asian cuisine, I'm very familiar with sinigang. So sinigang
hmm
is a broth that is tamarind based. Sometimes there's beef or pork and some kind of greens. Whereas my husband, he has a dish called salamachu, which is also tamarind based, lots of greens. Now, my stepdaughter, she's familiar with a version that her mom made with sinigang. And so having us all together, it has been such an amazing experience to try and blend all of our familiar flavors when it comes to this dish that, I can't even call it sinigang anymore, the way that we make it in our house, but it's still with a tamarind base. We use, I incorporate like lemongrass in it. I have a heavier hand of the fish sauce in it to speak to like my husband's palate. And then even like with my stepdaughter, she loves fish or seafood in it, which I never grew up eating. But then also really to top it off with the cultural relevance is we source a lot of our food from a local urban garden in the like South Bay area here in LA. And oftentimes we kind of just put in whatever is in season, but still make it authentically ours with those same authentic base flavors of like Filipino and Khmer cuisine. And so I love thinking of it like that. Like we have a blended family. We use all kinds of mix of ingredients. It really just comes out to being like a melting pot of our Khmer, Filipino, and LA cultures in one dish.
hmm That's amazing. Oh, that sounds so delicious.
Yeah, yeah, I'll ship you a bowl one time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much again, Hyla. It was so great to talk to you, and I'm sure everyone will be also loving to learn about your expertise and all the knowledge that you just shared with us. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.